Welcome to the show. Now, in the studio today, Chef Tom Kitchen, cake connoisseur Mich Turner, and wine expert Susie Barry. Welcome, guys. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Good. Very colourful, apart from you, Tom. Tom, you're cooking first.
Well, off to a good start.
What are you?
Yeah, I'm cooking first. I'm going to do some halibut today. I'm going to steam the halibut.
Yeah.
I'm going to serve it with asparagus, which is banging season at this time of year.
It is, yeah.
And then we're going to do some shellfish, winkles, mussels, and some clams.
Beautiful.
And bring it all together.
Very simple, but
simple, but full of flavour and really accessible for a home cook as well.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Look forward to that one. And Mich, your first time here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What are you going to be doing?
A real spring treat, kind of Easter bonnet of a cake, a skinny-licious vanilla cake, fat-free, dairy-free. We're going to be making Italian meringue and a fresh fruit compote.
I mean, it looks very impressive, but fat-free and dairy-free. Really?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Is that going to be tasty?
Have your cake and eat it.
OK. All right. That sounds like a book title. And Susie, you...
I mean, what great recipes. And I've got some really lovely kind of spring-like wines.
Yeah.
Wines that are just bringing us into season.
Cool. Good. Keeping it crisp.
Dreadful
Mich,
plans. Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We're making cakes.
Yeah, I'm going to get you busy in the kitchen. Gorgeous, wonderful cake for this time of year. We're going to start using a hero of fresh fruit palette. So here you've got raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, and I'd like you to sort of zest those with some lemon, fresh orange, and orange juice and zest, and you're going to make a lovely compote, so reduce that down.
And
so
we've got quite a lot to do in not much time.
We have got quite a lot to do in not a huge amount of time, but we're going to crack on. And I'm going to start by making a whisk sponge. So this is using sugar and eggs to create that kind of sabayon, bringing the heat underneath it, so it will create that wonderful volume in the sponge.
Now,
so
Mich,
really
this is your first time here, so tell us a little bit about Mich Turner.
Oh, my goodness.
What's your background?
My background? Well, I trained as qualified as a food scientist. So, you know, listening a lot to what James has got to say, it sort of brings it all back, which is just marvellous. And I trained, qualified, worked as a buyer, and then started my own company working on cakes, which I started doing, and made my very first wedding cake 30 years ago this year, but have gone on to make over 10,000 bespoke cakes for lots and lots of lovely people. Yeah, they're
we're going to talk about your client list in just a little bit, but this cake over here, this beautiful specimen.
Yes.
Over here, lovely spring cake. I mean, that's typical of what you do? That's
typical of the style of cake that I do. So lots of using kind of hand-painted, hand-moulded, hand-piped designs. And on this particular style is something that I typically do. But this recipe is actually from my new book, which is looking at healthier alternatives or healthier ways of having everyday baking. All about nutritious, delicious, but healthier baking. That's the plan.
OK, so how did you get into that then? Was that driven by the public, do you think, or is that something you wanted to
It's also a lot about how I am in my own home. Yeah. You know, I have 2 boys, I have a family, we all like to eat delicious cakes, but it's using a lot of natural ingredients, how you can use special, fruits, and I'd like you to whisk on there, if you'd be so kind, So I'm working on an Italian meringue. That I'm going to put on here. It's just going to get this going. So I've got egg whites here, and I've got a syrup of sugar, water, and glucose syrup that I've heated up to 120 degrees, and I'm going to pour that carefully into the egg white to make a beautiful Italian meringue. An Italian meringue is a wonderful meringue that you can use if you are dairy-free or something that's fat-free. And because you've heat-treated, going a bit haywire there, heat-treated the egg, it means that it's very stable to eat at room temperature. So get that in there, and it can just whip away.
That's the difficult part. You just need to get that sugar thermometer.
You've got to get the temperature of the syrup at the right, 119, and then you pour it in, and then keep it going. That's the way that goes. Right. And that can just whisk away nicely. And you've got the cake batter going there.
So you're whisking this over heat.
Whisking it over heat because that heat will drive up the temperature of the egg. And you've got the lecithin in the egg yolk, which is the emulsifier. And you've got the egg white, it's an elasticated protein, so it's like lots of balloons filling up with air and staying nice and stable.
I mean, there's quite a lot going on here, but is this an achievable cake at home?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really what I'm all about in my recipes. It's about having your cake and eat it. It's all about store-cupboard ingredients.
Which is the title of your book.
Absolutely.
You keep it in there.
But it is. It's about showing people how ingredients that you have in your home, where you can get readily available, using fruits that are in season, ingredients that are in season. Because people love baking. They love being able to bake.
Britain's got baking now.
Well, it's because it brings a huge amount of self-confidence and skill to the people who are baking. You know, you feel like you've achieved something.
Yes, I do.
And there is that element of science in there of knowing how to maximise the ingredients. But you're creating something that's a real pleasure for you and a real pleasure for everybody else.
And do you look at this as a science as well? When you see what's going on in here?
Yeah, no, I still do. I still look at it as a science because it's very much about how to maximise the physical chemistry of every ingredient that you're using to ensure that you're bringing about a pack load full of flavour.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's all about that.
No,
so
I think the science behind it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, firstly, just stir in the vanilla.
Okay.
So, because that's going to add the flavour. Because you're using a whisked sponge, you've got eggs and sugar, but if you get the vanilla in there, that's going to really bring lots of flavour in.
Okay.
And this cake almost comes together, if you think like a trifle, so you've got the sponge, you've got the fruits, and then you've got the Italian meringue. So those elements together are going to give it that wonderful sort of depth.
Okay.
I'm going to start building it, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in real life, you would bring this up until it leaves a ribbon trail.
Yeah, get that ribbon effect in
right?
it, because then that's what's creating the air. The more time you spend at that moment getting the air into the cake, the lighter the sponge is going to be once it's done.
And then you cut through, and so you don't get pockets of flour.
Yeah, so you don't get any pockets of flour. And it's more important to make sure that flour is stirred in.
Sure.
So that you get an even sponge. Split between 3 tins.
Okay.
And then if you pop that in the oven, 160 degrees for about 20 minutes, that will be marvellous.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I'll bring everything over, and then you can help me. Help me with everything.
Okay, so I'm... Yeah, let's get this.
All right, you get that in the oven.
So how long do they take in the oven then, Mich?
20 minutes.
20 minutes, OK. Cool.
That will be fab.
Oh.
So you know, there are lots of...
The Italian meringue's going to be like the cream, I guess.
The Italian meringue is like the cream. And, you know, this recipe, because you're making the sponge and you're making the fruit and you're making the Italian meringue, essentially all the elements are warm. So you can put it together literally as soon as you've made it. You don't have to wait for anything to cool because nothing is going to melt once you've actually put the whole cake together.
And the meringue holds it up like the whipped cream would.
Yeah, because it's a lot more stable because you put the heat into the meringue by having that hot syrup. The hot syrup, it actually is really stable. It doesn't collapse on itself. It stays really stable. So it's a great one to use.
So what are your piping tips?
Well, my piping tips, you know, I mean, I hold a piping bag probably as easily as I hold as you would hold a knife, Matt, but I've, you know,
but is that because you've been doing 30 years? I mean, this can be quite intimidating.
It can be quite intimidating, but, you know, for a lot of people, if they can handle cupcakes or can pipe cupcakes with a nozzle, I'm going to show you how to simply do this. One of the top tips about putting it in your piping bag, make sure you cut the hole big enough so that when you put the... When you put the nozzle through into the end, you actually see all the teeth.
Okay.
Are you ready there?
I am.
You're looking very good.
I'm ready to go.
Looking very fetching.
Ready to go.
And I want you to carefully spoon that.
You.
But could you just... There we go. Italian meringue.
Right,
in you go.
that.
I've got that. Pop some more in. And this Italian meringue is great. If you're making little lemon, like a lemon meringue pie, you could make the pastry case, fill it with a homemade lemon curd, and then top it with Italian meringue. I'm going to pop that in there, and then we'll do a second bag. Yeah, because it's easier to handle 2 smaller bags than 1 larger bag. You have more control. And a lot about piping is all about that precision.
Those disposable bags are brilliant, though. How do we survive without those?
I don't know, they're brilliant, aren't they?
Right.
OK, good. Is that it?
So we're going to make this cake now in just over 2 minutes.
Brilliant.
So is that possible?
Of course.
So, Mich, what's the difference between Italian meringue and a normal meringue?
Well, Italian meringue is where you heat the sugar syrup. So you've got a hot sugar syrup that you pour over the egg white so it's stable at room temperature. It doesn't need any further heating.
So you don't have to cook it.
You don't have to put it in the oven thereafter. A large spoon, lovely.
Large spoon, yes.
If you'd be so kind, thank you so much.
Be sweating.
Marvellous. That's wonderful.
Makeup to the floor.
So that's the fruit compote going on there. So put it nicely in the middle of your cake stand, and you can build this, you know, on the stand.
OK.
There goes the fruit. OK, all looking brilliant.
You know, if you cook fruit like berries, you can double the amount of absorbable polyphenol, so you can feel even better about this cake.
Wow.
Good.
Look at that.
That's tremendous, isn't it? So you see what I'm doing is I'm taking the nozzle out to the edge of the cake and back in, just in and out movement. Turning the cake.
I mean, you're making this look very easy.
Well, that's good, because on the next layer up, you're going to have a go.
Well, we didn't do that in rehearsal.
I know. But I figured that if I made it look that easy, you would enjoy having a go. So next layer goes... You see how that looks lovely? Almost like a little daisy.
Yeah.
So it's perfect for kind of a spring flower event at this time of year. Press that down so it just begins to... The meringue just begins to peep out at the edge. Next fruit going on.
Okay.
And don't think that because you're doing the fruit means I'm going to do the meringue.
No, I'd love to have a crack at this.
Have a little swidge around the edge, yeah?
OK.
But just keep it maybe around the edges so that it peeps out. Yeah?
Right, OK.
Right.
You'll get your own back on the omelette, Matt.
Hey. And the benefit of here is because we're using all the fresh fruit...
just start in the middle?
Yeah. And then start here, maybe, and just come out a little bit more. That's it, lovely. And you see how lovely it is to handle. It's kind of quite smooth, isn't it? Pipe and talk at the same time. Okay, I'll finish
Next.
up.
Okay,
I
was getting into
I can
my
see
rhythm
you
there.
were enjoying that. I want to make sure we get enough for the top.
I mean, is that why people are loving cakes? It's quite sort of therapeutic.
Well, as I said, it brings a huge amount of pleasure to the people when they're baking and decorating, because when they're creating something, it's a wonderful sense of achievement. And we tend to find that the younger generation these days are the ones who have all of the, they're less time strapped.
Yeah.
So the younger generation, the children, really, really enjoy baking and decorating because.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, okay. Might just do a little swizzle on the edge here for this one, because we've only got a little bit of meringue left.
Do you leave that before you slice it? Does it kind of...
No, James.
Not on this show.
Trust me. It's coming your way.
That's incredible.
All right, and I want a little bit of blow torching. Okay?
Okay.
Super duper. Wonderful. Tremendous.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Great.
Amazing. Okay, so
Terrific.
like that, but with more meringue, because I messed up in the middle.
Well, you're a little bit heavy-handed on your hand piping, but that's okay. That's no worries at all.
Right, and what do you call that then, Mitch?
That's my Skinnylicious vanilla cake with Italian meringue and a fresh fruit compote.
Beautiful. Right, let's go. Let's go. I'll tell you what, let's cut this bit here.
Yes.
That I got wrong.
Slightly less meringue on, hey?
Right.
All right.
Okay, you start cutting into that. I mean, we did... there's quite a lot to do in 7 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you generally probably wouldn't have to do it in quite such a short space of time if you were
When
doing
you
this.
when you make a cake, kind of the fun is to take time over it, isn't it? So you've got time at home and just...
Look at that. So
Wow.
you've got all the
Yeah,
layers.
sorry.
Thank you.
Looks spectacular.
Cake, fruit,
Here, pass that. I'll pass
meringue.
that down.
Delicious, delicious, delicious.
Susie, what are we drinking
Okay,
with? So we having a cup of tea with this?
it's not Skinnylicious, I'm afraid. It's delicious, but it's a Sauvignon Blanc. It's a sweet Sauvignon Blanc. It's the Ned Noble Sauvignon Blanc.
I was expecting something fizzy.
Oh, sorry, no. Well, you could have fizz with this. You could have a Moscato d'Asti, which would be delicious as well. But this is a sweet Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough in New Zealand, obviously known for its dry Sauvignon Blancs. So this is quite unusual. It's $12.99 from Majestic. And the reason I've chosen it... first of all, Mitch, I think you'll agree that although this has got no fat, no butter or cream, it's quite sweet. So you need a wine that's really sweet as well.
You're right, it is a sweet cake, but it's not as sweet as you may first think, because although you're using a whisk sponge and there is sugar in all the different elements, there's much less than if it were a cream sponge or if you were using something like a buttercream. So it's much lighter, much fruitier.
And the texture of the meringue really fakes fat incredibly well. Like, I was expecting it to be really quite dry, quite sweet, that, like all the fat-free cakes I've had before. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
No, it's really good.
Come on. Hang on,
How important the berries are there.
They're the real hero of this dish, and that's what I've always said, that, when you're baking and when you're having, it's got to be a memory for the palate. So it's all about visually, it's got to really draw you in, but it's how it tastes is what you'll remember.
In 7 minutes. Magic.
I know, we made it look easy, right?